Here we are. Well, welcome. Hello and welcome, everyone, to the May 2023 Leader Transition Institute Training and Coaching Session. I'm Annie Brock, the President and CEO. Let me tell you just for a minute what LTI, that's what we call the Leader Transition Institute for short. Let me tell you a little bit about what it is. LTI is a veteran-led, Maryland-based 501c3 organization that serves people like you, perhaps, who are transitioning from one industry sector to another. Every one of us on the LTI team has done that at least one time in our lives, some of us more than once. Our special focus, our philanthropic mission, is working with service members, veterans, and military spouses who are transitioning from active duty into the civilian sector. We know that much of what they need to learn is applicable to veterans of any era and everyone in the civilian sector. So we live stream these sessions because, as our favorite leadership guru, John Maxwell, likes to say, we want to be a river, not a reservoir. Today, we're excited to have Sheneke Harris with us. Sheneke is the founder of She Speaks. And in 2022, just last year, a little bit over a year ago, Sheneke retired from the US Air Force after a distinguished 23-year career. Today, she works with women who need help embracing their life journey and telling their stories. And I'm really proud to say that we're fortunate that Sheneke is a member of our Changing Focus Moving from We to Me teaching team. She serves us as a facilitator and coach for Focus on Your Purpose. Welcome once again, Sheneke, to our LTI training and coaching session. And I am excited to learn today from you about what it takes to really live.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Hello, Annie. As always, thank you for allowing me to be on your platform. So, today we are going to live. And, like Annie said, we go through transitions. And what we really wanted to focus on was the positive side of transitioning. Whether you're transitioning out of the military or you're going to another job or another career, or maybe you're just transitioning in life. And today we're going to talk about living. And live is an acronym that I created because I wanted something that's easy to remember and use. And I wanted something that we could all apply to our daily lives. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So live stands for let go, identity, value, and explore. And you're probably thinking, well, how do all of these things line up with transitioning? And I'm going to tell you how. So let's move on to the first one, let go. So, like Annie mentioned, I was active duty military and I retired. And, when you're in a transition, there are just a lot of things that are going on, and you're trying to find yourself in some cases. And sometimes we need to let go. Now, I know you're probably thinking, Sheneke, this is easier said than done. I've had a career of 20 plus years, or, maybe you had a short career or whatever it was. And it may be hard to let go of some of the things that you've learned, right? And I always tell people, man, transition, in some cases you have to unlearn some things, you have to relearn some things. But today I want to encourage you to let go of expectations when you're in a transition. Now, I'm not saying you can't have standards or you shouldn't have standards or you shouldn't have goals, but sometimes our expectations are way up here and we burn ourselves out trying to get there. Or maybe they're not our expectations that we're holding on to, but we're operating out of the expectations of others. Whether it was your supervisor, your commander, your manager, your team lead, your spouse, your children, your mom, your dad, whoever it is in your life that you value, maybe they put their expectations on you and you don't want to disappoint people. So you hold on to what they expect of you, right? And you wear that hat. But I'm here today to let you know that it's okay to let go of your expectations. Let's be honest, they could be a little unrealistic, especially for the time frame that you have. Or maybe the expectations that have been placed upon us from those that value us and care about us, and even the people that don't value us or care about us, maybe they just needed something from us. It's time to let go of those expectations. And with that, I always like to say it's time to let go of those things that no longer serve you in this phase of your life. Because think about it. In the military, there were things that we needed to do. There were expectations that were set upon us, and we had to hold on to those things for the betterment of the people or the mission or the organization. But now, when you're in this transitional phase, some of those things you don't have to hold on to. So I'll give you all an example. And I think I've said this a few times in some of my coaching sessions with LTI. I always noticed that there was an expectation for us to show up somewhere, right? And if you show up 15 minutes, then you're late. And if you show up 30 minutes, then you're right on time, right? It all depends on who's saying what and what their leadership style is. But when I retired, I found myself still on the go. Move, 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 move. And one day I realized I didn't have anywhere to really show up for. There was no staff meeting. There was no doctor's appointment I had to go to. There was no commander's call. There wasn't anything like that. But I was still holding myself to that standard to show up early or to get there and wait. And I had to reprogram myself that it's okay to slow down. And I always tell people, even now when I'm driving somewhere, I'm in no rush. I'm not in the far left lane trying to run people over. I'm in the right hand lane and I'm taking my time and I'm getting where I need to be. So for me, the rush, rush, rush lifestyle no longer served me because I'm in a period where I can slow down. I can take my time and I can focus on what's going on in this moment. So when it comes to letting go, these are a couple of questions I want you to ask yourself. One, what do I need or want to let go of in this phase of my life? And I'm not saying you have to have an answer right now. They're self-reflection questions. So you can actually write this question down and come back to it. But what do I need or want to let go of in this phase of my life? Maybe it's not bringing me peace. Maybe it's an expectation that I no longer need to have on myself, or maybe it's an expectation that someone else is holding me accountable for. And the most important question from my perspective, why am I holding on? Is it because I don't want to disappoint someone? Will I feel like I'm a failure? Am I holding on to it because it's a family tradition? And this is something that I have to do. This is somewhere that I need to be. This is something that I must do. And whatever your answer is, peel that back. I always say, ask why, and then you'll finally get to that answer if you ask yourself why 2 or 3 times. So why am I doing this? Oh, because my mom said. Well, why did your mom say that? Oh, maybe because your mom, I know for me, my mom lived in a different era. So for her, this is how she navigated through life. Well, things have changed. I don't have to live like that. So now, So you ask yourself, why do you do these things? So next we'll go into the identity piece of transitioning. So I am here to tell you that when you are in a transition phase, you can create a new identity for yourself, or you can embrace or enhance the one that you have now. So you're probably thinking, what do you mean? Think about some of the celebrities that we know, right? And they've changed their identity or their name 2 or 3 times, but it's still the same person physically. But maybe they move different. Maybe their marketing is different. Maybe their personal brand is different now. And what I like to share with you is that you get to control this narrative now, right? And what I mean by that is Once you let go of those expectations, and now you're transitioning from maybe a service member or you're transitioning to a new organization, you get to create who you show up as. Now, be mindful. We don't want to give out any false narratives, right? Because I want you to be able to show up as your true and authentic self, however that looks for you, in the spaces that you're in. But people can rebrand all the time. And think about it. Maybe fashion wasn't your thing because we wore a uniform all the time. But now you get to experiment with colors and bow ties and accessories and those different things. And I will tell you, my spouse has retired, and it is so fun to see him go and shop and dress up because it's completely different from this clean cut person that I knew when we were both active duty. Now he has a full beard, his hair is curly, he wears a bow tie every now and then, he likes to go shopping, he's finding himself. Same man, but physically he has created a different identity he gets to explore. So know that you get to control that narrative, and you get to create a new identity, or you get to embrace or enhance that one. But I just ask that you show up as yourself, even if you're figuring out who you are, right? Maybe you're not too sure, but you can explore. And the goal when you're creating this identity or enhancing it, make sure that you're at peace, make sure that you love it, and make sure you're happy about it. Now, if you notice, I didn't say make sure you're comfortable, because when you're trying something new, there is a period where you may be uncomfortable. And that's normal. And it's okay, right? Because it's something new, something that you're trying out. So when you're creating or enhancing your identity, ask yourself these questions. Who do you think you are? Right? And I say that because sometimes who we perceive ourselves as may be different from what others may see. And when I say this, you can ask others, how do they see you? And I always like to say, ask someone who's very close to you, ask an associate, and then you can ask maybe someone who you don't have a lot of interaction with, just to kind of see what kind of feedback you get. But you have to be open to feedback because it can help you in the long run. And then you can ask yourself, say maybe you're creating a new identity, who do you want to be? Maybe you know who you are in these spaces, in a corporate space, in a military setting, but now you're no longer in those spaces. Who do you want to be? And I will be honest, sometimes there will be some deep reflection in this, because if you don't know who you are, trying to figure out who you want to be could be a little nerve-wracking. But it's safe to say that you can use your support system to help you in this area. And when I say your support system, you can enlist the help of therapists, coaches, professionals, your spouse, your children. I know my children are brutally honest with love, but I know that I can always count on them to give me maybe some tough love. And then the last question to ask yourself is, how will you get there? What do you need to do? Do you need to create healthy habits in order to get there? Do you need to surround yourself with positive people? Do you need to learn how to be vulnerable in some spaces? Because sometimes that's the only way to really incorporate the changes that you want. And with all of these questions, I'm asking that you do these in a safe space, right? Because I believe that's important. In order for us to grow, in order for us to take this journey, we need to surround ourselves with people who are going to walk with us, walk behind us, and walk beside us, but also give us what we need with love, if that makes sense.
And I want to, Sheneke, I just want to say what you're saying about being in a safe space and being, being aware of the people who are in front of us, behind us, and around us. Because, that's important. We become the average, that we become the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. And that doesn't just apply in a professional setting. That
Yeah.
applies in this next phase of our life too. So if
Yes.
you are paying attention, if you are thinking about who you want to be, maybe you want to be with some people who are like that.
Yeah. And that's great that you bring that up, right? Excuse me. Because I'll give you an example. If you want to be an entrepreneur in your next life, and maybe no one in your family has done that, maybe you'll be the first one. Surround yourself with other entrepreneurs at all levels, those that are starting out with you, those that have the mindset or the idea that they want to do that, and then people who have already done that or they're being successful at it. Surround yourself with people that you may not be in those circles otherwise. And I'll tell you, those are safe spaces too, because the diversity of thought, but also having the same mindset is amazing as well. And it's, you will see that growth little by little. And in some cases, that growth happens so fast that you're like, oh man, this is great. I found my people, I found my community. And what I would like to say, it's okay to have more than one community, because everyone isn't going to be able to give you everything that you need, and you won't be able to be everything to everyone. So it's okay
Well,
to have different communities.
that for exactly the reason you said, Shanika, but also if you're experimenting with who you want to be and how you want to grow, by being in those different communities, you get exposed to those different kinds of things.
Yes, that is true. Yep, good point, Annie. Thank you so much. So now we're going to roll into value. Now, I feel like this is important because everyone has their own story. And sometimes we can look at others and think that our story doesn't mean much, it doesn't have a lot of impact, or it's just a story, right? But I want you to value your experiences, value your gifts, your skill sets, and most importantly, your story. So this is personal and professional, because your personal story allows you to move in certain ways that maybe your professional story won't. And I'll give you an example. So in my professional life, my background dealt with some very sensitive things. And I had to make sure that I was in a space where I knew how important diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging is. And I still value that, right? But the different spaces, personally, I'm allowed to use my voice in different ways that I wasn't allowed to do professionally, but they both connect. So I was able to use my personal experiences and my strengths and my skill sets in my personal life, but I was also able to use those professional experiences, gifts, skill sets, and stories. And in some cases, they'll connect. And all of your skills, whether personal or professional, your story, from my perspective, they're all transferable. If you've ever seen the movie Slumdog Millionaire, and I always like to bring this up, the young man just navigated through life and he had all of these different experiences. But in the end, all of those experiences got him through different situations in his life. And I feel like that's how we need to move when we are living. Everything you do is transferable. It may not serve a purpose for you right now, but you never know how they will serve a purpose later on in your life. And you never know who your stories are going to impact. So, what I want you to do is always hold value in your story, even on the days where you don't feel like your story is valuable. because they will help someone, whether it's in an organization, a nonprofit, for profit, mentoring program. Your story matters and is valuable. And lastly, we were talking about exploring. Now, this is so much fun for me because I have explored a few things since my transition. And if any of you follow me on social media, you have seen the colorful hair, you've seen the piercings, you've seen my adventures. But it's because there are some things that I wanted to try because I no longer had any limitations and, got rid of some of those expectations and I truly wanted to live. So I want to let you know there's nothing wrong with exploring. I want you to go back and embrace some of the things that you used to do that maybe you just didn't have time for anymore, right? Like I know friends who love baking and photography and hiking and all those different things, but their schedules just didn't allow. And now that they have this free time, I see them baking and doing photography and all different types of things. Their passion has come back. And when I feel as though when you explore, sometimes going back to the old things or trying out the new things, this is also how you focus on your identity and who you are, because you're like, oh, I do like this, or no, I don't like skydiving like I used to. Some things have changed, right? I'm my blood doesn't pump the way it used to. So now I actually like reading or listening to audiobooks or making the time for those things. And exploring, I'll be honest, it can be scary, but you don't know what you can do until you try it or you learn. So even exploring a new career field, maybe you were a technical person for so long, and now you get to be in a space where you're a strategic thinker and you're managing and you're leading. Or maybe you were maintenance and now you want to go to culinary school. Explore. You never know what it is that you like until you get out there and try it. And you won't know what you don't like until you get out there and you try it. So I encourage you today to explore. But most
Sheneke,
importantly, yes, ma'am.
can I put you on the spot?
Yes.
Okay. So, in this last year,
Yes.
what's the scariest thing that you've done in the exploration process?
The scariest thing, and you already know this, Annie, is exposing myself to others in my pursuit of being a life coach. That was the scariest thing for me because there's no guide to entrepreneurship. There's a lot of tools and a lot of resources, but it's really taking a risk and putting yourself out there and doing things that you may be uncomfortable doing. For instance, I will be on social media, but I would tell you I cringe when people share my stuff. I cringe when people suggest me to other people. It's scary for me because in my past life, I knew what I was doing. I just got up and I did it, and there we go. But that for me has been the scariest when it comes to career transition. I'll say when it comes to just life transition, the doing what I want to do when I want to do it. And I wasn't out here doing anything crazy, but it's like, oh, I'll go take this trip. Oh, let me just go get my nose pierced. I don't have anything else to do. Just doing those things. And Annie knows because I texted her and I was like, just so you know, I got my nose pierced. And she was like, oh, it's not a problem. I've seen it on Facebook. People get piercings all the time. Not a big deal. But for me, being in such a structured space a little over a year ago, for me, that was different. So, Annie, I would just say just stepping out and just for me doing random things, exploring, just trying to figure out what I like and what I don't like. So Those I gave you two, but yes, that's what it's been. Thank you for asking. So, Annie, that is all that I have today, but I want you all to remember to live, right? Let go of what no longer serves you and expectations. Your identity is yours. You get to create it, you get to make a new one, or you get to enhance it. Value your story and your skill sets and what you bring, and then also explore. This world is huge. There are so many different things for us. And yes, there is a freedom when you're exploring and learning who you are. And that's the beauty of transition. You're going from one phase to another. And it's all about your outlook on how it goes. And I'm not here to be a, what is it? Um, what is it? Positive toxicity. That's not what I'm doing. What I'm saying is, yes, there are going to be times where you're fearful. There are going to be times where you step out and you just don't know how it's going to work. But what is going to happen is I believe you're going to enjoy the process, because you're going to grow and you're going to learn. And it's just something that we really need to do in order to enjoy the transition. So I just encourage you all to live today.
Thank you so much, Sheneke. These are really powerful things that you've said. Let go, be willing to let go of our expectations, choose how we want to show up in the world, value what we bring, and be willing to explore. And then you said something really powerful here at the end. You said to enjoy the process. That is key, isn't it?
Yes.
Thank you so
Yes.
much. Do you have something to add on?
I said, no, yes, it is. That's
Okay.
key. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you, everybody who's been on with us to, oh, there goes one AirPod. Today, thank you for being on with us. And for those of you who watch us later, thank you for taking the time to view this presentation. We look forward to seeing you again in June for another session from the Leader Transition Institute. Thank you and have a great day, everybody.
Bye.